Yo, what's going on YouTube? Devour here. Today we're going over the best settings for Black Ops 6. We're going to go into the controller, the interface, audio, and even the graphics region as well. In this game, there's probably like 10 settings that are scattered across these 4 categories that you absolutely need to have on. If you do not have them on, then you will be at a large competitive disadvantage. So let's get rid of that competitive disadvantage. Let's hop right into this settings video. If you've never watched the full settings video before and you don't really understand what you're doing in the settings, I would highly recommend watching the whole video. If you know exactly what you're looking for and you just want to skip to that, everything's time coded below. So feel free to skip ahead if you guys want to skip ahead and just get in, get out, get ahead. I use 9.9. This is gonna vary on how much FPS you guys have. The more FPS you have, the higher your sensitivity will feel. So if you have a lower FPS, like if you're still on a PlayStation 4, then you're probably gonna need to up that from 9.9 maybe to 11.11 or 12.12, something like that. Dead zones is very, very important. These default at weird settings. You want your left stick min to be as low as possible without stick drift. So if you have an old controller, then you're probably gonna have to up that to like 5 or 6 or something. That way it's not moving on its own. The left stick max is very important. I bring that down to 80. That way you're moving at a full sprint more quickly and you don't have to have your controller, your left stick fully pushed forward. And also make sure those dead zone triggers are completely off. They default at something different, so it'll make your triggers more responsive if you have that off. And then this is very important, the ADS sensitivity multiplier. So when you're zoomed in, when I'm not zoomed in, my sensitivity is 9.9. When I am zoomed in, it's at 0.80 of that 9.9. So it essentially slows down to like 6.5 when I'm zoomed in. So it makes it feel like a lot more sticky when you're aimed in. So when you're aimed in, it's going to move a little bit slower, make it a little bit easier for your micro adjustments that you're doing in gunfights. You're also going to want to make sure you go into that advanced and you turn on dynamic. It should default at 1.0, but just double check it and make sure it's turned up all the way up to 1.0. Dynamic is definitely the best as well. And I think I should have that on instant. I had that on moderate, so change that to instant as well. That way the ADS sensitivity multiplier goes into effect as soon as you push left trigger or whatever button you decide to use for zooming in and stuff like that. Tactical sprint assist, this is very important. You're going to want to go ahead and push square, bring the drop down menu, put the sprint assist delay all the way down to 0, sprint sideways and sprint backwards or whatever. Have those both on. Mantle assist off. All these other settings, you want them like off and stuff like that. You just don't want them to get into the way. Me personally, I use slide only because when I use the other settings and stuff like that, I'm constantly diving when I don't mean to dive. If you want to absolutely maximize movement in this game, I would highly recommend playing on what the pros play, and that's hybrid. You just got to get used to it. And then basically, I think you have to push down. You can set it to a button to dive when you push 2 buttons together, and then it slides when you just push slide or whatever. But for me, I just use slide only. I slide cancel a lot. I like sliding backwards, forward, sideways, and backwards and stuff like that in order to win gunfights. And I like to jump shot a lot, even though jump shotting in this game is terrible, and I should be drop shotting a lot more. And then yeah, all of these are pretty much default stuff or up to you guys. Let's go ahead and move right into the next section. Well, I'd say the next most important section is probably audio. So move into audio. So I have my game volume at 100, effects volume at 100, gameplay, cinematic music, I like to turn that up a little bit. The other 2 ones, I literally just keep them off. I'd say that's more on you, but I'd say if you play search and destroy like me, they're probably just going to get in the way. If it allows you to buy this, I've heard nothing but great reviews from this, and if you really love Call of Duty and you don't want to be at any competitive disadvantage, I would recommend buying their pay-to-win audio because I've heard amazing things about it, and it makes a huge difference. Definitely want to use Sucker Punch. My boy Havoc found that one out. Shout out Papa Havoc. If you guys already know, he's like the top ranked player, and he's like the most legit. Left channel frequency. These are actually his frequencies as well. So again, shout out Havoc. You just literally just go ahead and copy this. You're gonna put this for the left frequency and for the right frequency. It's literally the same exact things on both sides. It helps you hear footsteps a lot better, and it makes the gunshots a little bit less aggressive as well. And then reduce the tightness sound. It just save your ears. I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly and stuff like that. But yeah, make sure you have all those on. That way you guys hear people's angry death comms and voice chat, and you guys can talk all that good trash. And then microphone volume, a lot of people leave that at 100. Please turn that down. Please turn that down. A lot of you have like terrible mics because your mic settings have just never been changed. So turn that down. You don't need it more than 50, I promise you. And then all of this stuff is pretty much like default. I think this is a PC only thing, but skip introduction movie is kind of nice. It helps you spawn in quicker to matches. That way you don't miss that first round. I think it's only for PC though. A lot of people ask me how I get my time and my FPS in the top left-hand corner. That's in the telemetry thing. So you can just go ahead and turn that on if you want to turn that on. I leave those two on. That way I can show when I'm lagging and stuff like that, or when I know, that way I know if I'm lagging or something like that. And then these colors are actually very, very important. I have it set to purple for my teammates because it just sticks out really well, so I'm able to see where my teammates are. And then I have the enemy and contested set to yellow. I do this specifically, I started doing this in MW 2019. Instead of red, yellow sticks out a lot better than red, and yellow is actually the first color to register in the human brain as well, so it'll help out with your reaction time a little bit. A lot of you will you'll feel weird at the start when you just switch to yellow from red and stuff like that. A lot of people are just using the default blue and red, but if you switch it to yellow, after a week, I promise you, you will see a notable difference inside your reaction time, and it helps out a ton. I'm pretty sure that has to stay off. If you turn that on, I think it actually gets rid of the radar. Yeah, it's kind of like a weird. It's one of those weird test questions you get on a test where they just they ask you a super easy question in like an extremely weird way. Make sure you have the player name set to full name. You want the enemy's nameplate to be as large as possible. And then this one is actually a huge setting as well. The crosshairs, I set mine to static. That way it stays still. I think default is fine, but you can make it larger if you want to make it larger. This is just it's gonna keep your crosshairs in a center dot on your screen. And then I leave it at 100% opacity. That way it's just solid, it's easy to see through. And I set this to purple as well because it sticks out very well. If you see that little picture on the right-hand side, that's exactly what it's gonna look like. This is gonna help you center on people and have your aim be a lot more ready to kill people inside gunfights. Some people, they'll be aiming at the ground and they don't even really realize it too much. So that's static. That static setting right there helps out a ton. They introduced center dot, I think, in MW2, and I've been using it ever since. It is an amazing, amazing thing to just help out with overall, like being ready for gunfights and stuff like that. If you do happen to have an NVIDIA like me, make sure you got on plus boost. These are my graphic settings and stuff like that for any of my guys on PC. I play on 1440p. I think most people will probably be playing on like 1080p or something like that. I have my settings set to be like competitive, mostly for frames per second, to maximize frames per second. I have my PC overclocked as well. I have a 4090 GPU. A lot of you guys will have to adjust this based on how strong your PC is if you have a PC. And then Fidelity Cast is definitely the #1 best thing to use. I used to use NVIDIA DLSS, but apparently NVIDIA DLSS gives you fake frames, and it makes the picture worse than Fidelity Cast does. So you're best off using Fidelity Cast and then just going through all the settings and stuff that I use on the game. And even though a lot of that stuff is on low or whatever, my game still looks amazing. I constantly get compliments on my game looking good and stuff like that. I've been using 120 this whole time, but I've been grinding a lot of ranked recently, and a lot of professional players will swear by this, that if you have your FOV more than 110, you're actually losing out on a large amount of aim assist. So most professional players, pretty much every single professional player, does not go over the FOV of 110. And a lot of the best professional players will be playing on like 95, 97. I think Dashy plays on 93 last time I checked. It could be different now, but try 107. If you're good with that, try stick with that. I would not recommend going over 110. Unless you're in Warzone, I'd say Warzone, you probably need to use the full 120, but that's going to help out a ton with like a little bit longer range gunfights and controlling your recoil a little bit better as well, making micro adjustments. And then, yeah, Just going into those, just copy that. You want to make this wide. That way your gun takes up the least amount of space as possible. It makes the gun look a little bit smaller. And then that way things can't like pass in front of you or like underneath you. Like say you're on top of a building or whatever and you're looking down. This one's very important. I don't do third person at all, so I don't really have to worry about the third person one, but you want to make sure you set that camera movement to 50% because it does default at 100%. And then, yeah, everything's pretty much good. And, thank you guys so much for tuning in. That's all the settings that we got for you guys today. If you were one of the people that cyberbullied me into making this video, as it's been happening a ton inside my streams, I appreciate you and I hope you guys are happy. Hopefully this helps out a ton. There is a lot of things you can do out there to help your audio as well. You can turn, if you're on a PC anyways, you can turn on loudness equalization on whatever your headset is that you're using, and that will help out a ton. You can also, if you have an Asteroid 41 mix amp, you can change the frequencies inside there as well, kind of like how we did inside this game. But I also do use an aim controller. It has 4 paddles on the back. I'm sponsored by them. A link is in the description down below if you guys want a nice controller. Peace and love, babies.
I think I changed brown, cause when the bitches hear this, they're gonna be like, wow. Smoking gas, living fast, wearing velvet. Looks like a 4 or 5 to the pelvis. Plenty money going around.